what's the political situation? So for those outside of Ireland, who's in charge? What are their beliefs, and why are they letting in so many refugees and immigrants?
So the current Irish government has had various permutations over the last 6 or 7 years, but really a key figure in the whole immigration saga has been Leo Varadkar, who was the former Taoiseach, now replaced by Simon Harris. He seemed very keen on the idea that, Ireland needed to be this sort of bastion of compassion towards the world's refugees. His government minister for integration and housing, a man called Roderic O'Gorman, sent out a tweet in 2021 in 8 languages, including Somali, Urdu, French, Arabic, basically advertising Ireland to the world's refugees in the manner of an estate agent. He offered them own door accommodation. So you don't have to be in a flat, we'll give you your own front door. And this is, I think that speaks to for them, it wasn't a sort of obligation that Ireland would fulfill out of, the goodness of their heart. It was something that they were actively elated by. They were enthusiastic about Ireland taking in more refugees. And that's an ideological position that I don't think, if you were to poll the Irish public, especially after seeing the consequences, that they would have been on board with.
So this was maybe purely ideological. It's just some ideologues in charge who thought we're doing what's right by doing exactly not what our constituents want.
I think a lot of Irish society was taken in by the rhetoric. The government were coming at it from a position of, Ireland doesn't have an army. Ireland doesn't have really a meaningful contribution to international affairs beyond what it sees as, its kind of moral contribution or its cultural contribution, these very soft attributes. And so, at the start of the Ukraine war, Ireland was very keen to flex its muscles to say, okay, we are going to pull our weight in fighting the tyrant of the 21st century, Vladimir Putin. And we're going to stick it to him by inviting all of these Ukrainian refugees. They took one of the highest relative amounts of Ukrainian refugees in Europe. But again, this was it seems to me, looking from the outside in, a policy that was felt good, but that wasn't thought through. And this is a consistent pattern with the Irish government. They invited all these Ukrainians. They gave them, 230 euros a month to live off, and very generous payment. And then they took in too many. They had to slash the payment by to 40 euros or something.
Oh wow,
and
that's a big slash.
Big slash. And they advertised Ireland to asylum seekers, and then when they had to start handing out tents and sleeping bags, and they were a little bit embarrassed about that, they then had to send out another message 2 years later saying, sorry guys, we're full. And so they have a very short time horizon in how they consider the second and third order effects of what feels good today.
Gosh, that's I suppose a lesson for everyone. I mean, individually, isn't it, as well? I saw a great graph on Twitter about that, like people who want to do things that make them feel good in the moments and how their life tends to go. And it was this great little graph that showed like, oh, you get a peak because you're happy, but then it goes down and up and down and up and down gradually down because you need those peaks more and more. And then people who make more sensible, rational, long-term decisions, they just sort of more straight, and gradually their lives tend to get better. And I wonder if I can find that graph. It was great. But I think that applies obviously on a national level. If you think things through and you don't just jump into doing these ideological decisions that make you feel good. It seems that things are changing. I mean, the feeling in Ireland, of course. And one thing that struck me in your documentary was that they're bringing people in overnight. Is that a usual thing to do in countries, to bring in refugees overnight so no one sees them? Is that what's going on? It seems incredibly, just absolutely bizarre.
So what usually happens is, say a small town like Roscrea will be given 24 hours notice that their hotel, the only hotel in the town as it happens, is being essentially taken over to house migrants, and they've got no recourse to complain about this. The hotel owner is in a seasonal business. Why, he's going to snatch the government's arm off if they offer him 2 years at a higher going rate than what he's going to earn in, so it's actually more lucrative in many cases to house refugees than hotel guests in Ireland.
Wow.
And so this is a great deal for the landlord. The community, like I say, is given 24 hours notice. Sometimes they will come out and protest. And so the government has tended to bus in the migrants at night, where they can, deposit them in the hotel with relatively little fuss. And so the communities then have started, like in Roscrea or Coolock, they've started doing these overnight protests where they'll sit out and they'll have somebody on guard outside the venue for days or weeks at a time. And the Irish government has now had to start bringing a kind of gendarmerie style police force.
Wow.
With, essentially in riot gear to safely leave the migrants in the hotel.